Welcome to the Football Feast podcast, the go-to podcast for soccer or football players who want to eat, train, and recover like the pros. I'm Craig Evans, a sports nutritionist working with athletes at every level, from rising stars to seasoned pros. Here, we deep dive into how elite players fuel for success, chat with top coaches, chefs, and experts, and bring you real stories from the pitch. Whether you're chasing a contract or just looking for that extra edge, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Football Feast podcast. This is episode 17. On today's episode, I've got Giorgio Tassone, who works for Como's Youth Academy, looking after the nutrition for the upcoming youth athletes at Como there over in Italy. Welcome to the podcast, Giorgio.
Hi, Craig. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me in this beautiful podcast. I'm excited to meet you and all your followers, for all the people who is going to hear our meeting. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, definitely looking forward to doing this, because I work with a lot of parents and youth athletes, and they've got so many questions, and some players just not eating enough for their energy output, and things with like adding school and also trying to become a professional player. There's so much energy use going into that, and I don't think a lot of people realize how much goes into it. So yeah, looking forward to this. All right, so let's kick things off. So can you give us a bit of a share of your journey and how you've become a sports nutritionist, and I guess now working with Como's Youth Academy?
Sure, Craig. So my journey started with the graduation in pharmacy. So firstly, I am a pharmacist. Then followed my passion for health, nutrition, and sports with a degree in human nutrition science, specializing myself in nutraceutical compounds and in sports nutrition. So I completed then several sport nutrition courses, and then I became an ISAC accredited anthropometrist to assess the body composition properly. I think that clinical and field blend opened my door to the football, and then eventually to the Commons Youth Academy, first starting with the under 15 and under 16 youth team, then from 2 years also with the under 19 and under 17 teams. I work with a colleague, so we are two sport nutritionists working for the Youth Academy of Como Football. Last year, we helped also the first women team to achieve their goals, I hope, and to build good habits.
Yeah, beautiful. On that, so with like body composition for the players over there, I guess a lot of Australians, right? We see football over in Europe, and every kid here dreams of making it and going over to England or Italy or Spain and making and playing top leagues. So what kind of composition margins do you guys set over there, and that our players would expect if they were to go over to Italy and should try and aim for to get to?
So usually, if I understand your question, I'm not sure I understand, sorry, but I try to answer in a properly way. So usually, when we assess body composition, we keep in mind that we are working with an adult or with a youth players, because I think that both the condition has different needs. If we work with adults, we know from the scientific literature that the muscle mass and the body fat are the two main things to consider, because the higher body fat we have, the less sprint velocity we can have, the less jumps we can do to kick the ball with the head, for example. The more muscle mass we have, obviously, we consider a range, because, for example, other sports like CrossFit have other references, but in the football, we have a range probably, and inside this range, the highest the muscle mass is, the highest power the athlete can develop. With a youth player, I think that things change, because we have to consider that we are working with someone that is growing up. Firstly, we consider to educate youth players to have good nutritional habits, and then we consider the body composition, if there is the needs or not to ameliorate the condition.
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, yeah, getting those right good habits first and setting up those
Yeah,
really good habits. And then I guess you're ticking those boxes. And then from there, you can look at perfecting it.
perfect. Yeah, using skin folds or girths, the weight, the height, and other analysis.
Yeah, very good. So I guess what was like the biggest challenge that you faced breaking into professional football as a nutritionist? And In the Serie A, do they have lots of nutritionists working for every team? Is it just the top teams, or has every single team got a nutritionist?
Yeah, in the Serie A, yes, every team has at least one nutritionist. I think so. I don't know that if all the 20 team of the Serie A get nutritionists, but I think so. I'm sure that some teams, maybe the top one, have more than one sports nutritionist that works in the medical area. As concerned myself, I think that the biggest challenge breaking into the professional football is earning trust. You have to translate science into simple and repeatable behaviors that fix in a busy academy week. Academy players are players, but usually they also go to school, they have a family. The best thing is that these behaviors fit in their busy week. And then we can show the results. So probably better energy in late session, fewer cramps, faster recovery, more energy availability. And so I think that achieving this result, we can earning trust.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. For me, when I start working with a youth player and I'll see how much calorie intake they've got, and it might be way too low, and then we start bumping up a little bit and they're like, oh my God, I'm not sleeping in the afternoon, or I'm not tired in the afternoon anymore. And after school or before training, and the cramps subside and the recovery improves as well. So yeah, it surprises them. It surprises the parents. That's what parents definitely need to understand is they are using a lot of energy, and it does support their growth and their performance and recovery. So it should be taken very seriously.
I agree completely. I mean, usually when I speak with parents or with youth players, I like to highlight that there is no performance and there is no recover if there is no health. So, firstly, we assess the nutritional habits or body composition to reach the highest level of health. Then, if we have healthy players, if we have healthy young players, we can also reach the maximum level of performance and the maximum level of proper recovery after session. And I think that proper recovery after session is part of the performance. I think it's a circle, health, recover, performance. If one of these 3 points miss, probably all the circle or the triangle get missed.
Yeah. One thing I like to point out is getting this organized or sorted when they are young and meeting all those points in that circle, the effect that they can have on their whole career, getting it in nice and early, they're performing better in every single training session, they're recovering better every single training session or after. That adds up so much over a 20, 25-year career.
Yeah.
Yeah, massive. All right. So what about like the nutrition work? Do you believe it's different in Italy compared to other countries? Is there stuff that you see in other countries where you guys do it a bit different?
I think it could be because we have different habits, different culture, food culture. So probably we know that the nutritional needs for the athlete are always the same if an athlete is based in America, in Africa, Europe, Asia, or in Australia, in the whole world. Okay, the nutritional needs are probably the same. An 80 kilos, 17 years old athlete needs the same calories amount if obviously the need and the energy exercise expenditure is the same for sure. But if the conditions are the same, the nutritional needs are obviously the same. But in Italy, probably we have different food culture. We eat more pasta than probably, I don't know, what an American players can do. Or if we compare our habits with your Australian habits, I'm quite sure that we have different habits. But I consider my country, Italy, as a gift for the nutritional habits because for sure, not only Italy, but Italy is part of the 7, 8, 9 countries that follow the Mediterranean diet. In my opinion, this is a good habit, good nutritional habit, the Mediterranean diet. Great ingredients, real meals. I think that apart from this, we have to consider the timing and the distribution of the foods through the day. We make breakfast count, we spread protein through the day in the different meals, and we use pasta or rice usually as fuel and not probably not as heavy or creamy dish before a match because I think that this is so important. So we can use pasta in a different way. If I use pasta just with a tomato sauce is different for sure if I use pasta with a carbonara sauce. So
Mm.
that's the best important thing. Use pasta or rice or bread or potatoes or other foods that contains high level of carbohydrates and maybe low level or low levels of fiber before the match, but use them in the right way. So usually we consider not heavy dish and not creamy dish before the match. If I have to say to you what's often missing, I think that often in Italy we don't miss a food, but we miss habits. So a lot of players miss hydration, and I think that the hydration plan is probably more important than the nutrition plan, in my opinion. If we start the match with a dehydration, we can't perform at the maximum level that we can reach for sure. And I can also say to you that it's not healthy to start the match in a dehydration level. So if we miss something, usually not as a sport nutritionist, but I mean as population, we miss hydration and we miss also planning. If we plan and if we plan also the hydration, I think that we can reach the maximum level of performance recover and healthy levels.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well put. I guess for like a parent's perspective, if a player from Australia, a young player,
Yeah,
made it to Como and they turned up for
yeah.
the first day, what would it look like from an eating perspective? What would you guys want them to eat and what would they be served?
Okay, if an Australian player reach our academy, probably he will stay in our hotel, okay, with other players for sure. He would have breakfast planned by me and my colleague. Usually, we consider if it's a training day, if it's a rest day, or if it's a match day for sure. So, give an example. If it is a training day and we train maybe at 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, the breakfast it would be with a good protein source like Greek yogurt, or we like so much fermented foods, so yogurt, skyr, kefir. We like for youth academy team dairy foods and dairy fermented foods. So the one I told you, I think that in my opinion they are the best food to use in the breakfast as a protein source. For sure, we had one of the five vegetable sources through the day in the breakfast, not vegetable, but fruit. Okay, usually we recommend two vegetable, lunch and dinner, and three portion of fruits through the day, breakfast, morning snack, and then after the training session in the afternoon. A carbohydrate source, it could be muesli, it could be whole wheat bread, it could be oat. I like so much oat because it contains also, we know, beta glucan in the fiber content of the oat. And I like that kind of compound also to boost the immunity of young players. We know that beta glucan has a good effect of our gut, but also on our immune system. So that will be probably the breakfast. Then in the middle of the morning, we provide him a snack. It could be fruit with dried fruit. So fresh fruit and dried fruit. I don't know, almond, and in summer maybe peach, or it could be an apple, it could be a pear. So high fiber snack with also more or less 0.2 grams of protein per kilo of body mass. So probably another yogurt, or if the players ate the yogurt in the breakfast, maybe a skyr or a kefir. We try not to give to the players a lot of processed food and processed meat. Like in Italy, we eat a lot of bresaola. I don't know if in Australia what is bresaola. It's like it's a processed meat. Okay,
Is it like salami?
yeah, salami has a lot of fat. Bresaola has high content of protein and not zero, but very low fat. So it's high
Oh,
protein. It's higher in protein and lower in fat than salami, but it's processed like salami. So we know that, how to say, exaggerating with this kind of food is not good for health. So we
mm.
try to take it at the lowest content that possible. Then for lunch, we try to schedule lunch 3 hours earlier than the training session to provide the right time for the digestion, not to have gut issues during training. And usually the lunch, we schedule the lunch based on the training intensity. If it is high intensity training day, for sure we provide more carbs. If it is a lighter intensity training day, we provide less carb because we know that based on the intensity, we have different needs of macronutrients. We call him fuel for the work required.
Yes.
And we like to call it as fuel for the work required because I think that players has different food needs, so different fuel based on the work they have to do on the football pitch. And then we complete the dish with protein-rich food, usually protein-rich food which have a low-fat content, because we don't have the time to manage this high-fat content if we have just 2 or 3 hours before the training session. Good hydration, because as we told before, the hydration is part of the nutritional plan, probably is the most important thing of the nutritional plan. And we try to provide them also vegetable portion, but a small size of vegetable, because if we have just 2 or 3 hours to manage the lunch before the training session, they don't need high fiber content. So lower fiber at lunch, probably it would be higher at dinner. So when we don't have the training session later.
Yeah, spot on. I really loved how you actually explained that. That was really good. And I
Sorry,
think,
Craig, I missed the most important thing, because I consider this part of the sport nutritional plan and probably the most important meal for the youth athlete, or for the athlete in general, youth or adult athlete that it is post-workout meal, post-workout snack. A lot of youth players late the post-workout recover to the dinner, but I think that we have a useful and a special window, that is the post-training snack, that we can use to boost the recovery of the players. And the food that I like, how to say, more as a post-workout snack is the low-fat chocolate milk. I completely love this kind of food because scientifically it's okay, and also it has a good taste, in my opinion. In my opinion, this is very important for the youth player.
yeah, I really like that you've covered some really good things there. I think that's important for people to understand is like you've highlighted like the protein coming in, and like for youth players, especially the younger we go or the less they weigh, it's quite easy to get the protein in, but it's super important for them to get it in because obviously it promotes one, their recovery, two, like their growth as well. So like you
Yeah.
guys are really honing that in and covering all that. And also that how you were talking about fueling for the intensity. So the carb content you were increasing for the intensity of the training session and dialing it back for lower intensity training sessions, which I think parents should definitely take that on board as well, is if you can plan ahead. I think planning is very important. If your son or daughter has got a really big day the next day, plan for it. Carb up for that day. If it's dialed back, it might be video sessions, it might be a light recovery day or something like that. Dial back the carbs there. And that's probably, yeah, the best way that they can think about that and I guess plan for those things. So I love what you covered there. So if you could give one piece of advice to parents on helping their children eat like an academy player, what would that be?
It's a simple advice, I think, and I hope it's a simple advice, but is to get the foundation right. So distribute protein across the day, meet the carbohydrate requirements, and it's the things we were speaking about a few minutes ago. Ensure pre-training fuel, not just post, but also pre-training fuel. It could be the lunch, it could be a snack, it depends on the timing, and keep a simple hydration plan. I think that this foundation, it could be good because consistency wins. Okay, so good habits repeated through the day, through the months, through the year, through the life. This is consistency, and this can win.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to go so well for them. Just not even just for their performance and how they go on the pitch. It's like for their overall lifelong health.
Yeah, yeah.
Love that. Okay, so is there any sort of foods or habits you would tell players to avoid, especially on training or match days?
We don't recommend new foods or unfamiliar foods for sure. We know that on the match day, we can't try anything new. That's the first rule we consider. And I think that every sport nutrition consider the same first rule. Even if we are speaking with a footballer, a marathon runner, a swimmer, cycling athlete, I don't know, every sports need the same rules. So on match day, we can't try new or unfamiliar foods. Then I would avoid very high fat, high fiber, spicy meal right before the match. I like so much dairy, but I would avoid big dairy portion size if the athlete is sensitive, for sure, because that could cause gut issues during the match. And due to the fact that we are talking about youth athlete, I would avoid energy drinks for teens, for sure. So no caffeine, no energy drinks. Another important rule, in my opinion, based on the age we are speaking about. So if you are speaking about 14, 15, 16-year-old athlete, the rule is food first, in my opinion, and then food only. If we speak about maybe 17, 18, 19 years old players, we can consider food first for sure. And also maybe we need supplement. I like supplements. I like carbohydrate supplements. I like creatine. I don't know, but we have to consider the age. The younger the player it is, the higher food first rule we consider.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm glad you actually pointed that out because that was one of the questions that came in was asking about sort of creatine for youth athletes and supplements. But yeah, food first, 100%. And what parents need to understand as well is with the younger players, and especially because they don't weigh as much, they don't need as much as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old 80-kilo player. Like a 12-year-old or 13, 14-year-old, you might weigh 50 kilos. So their needs are a lot lower.
Getting back to the creatine, I would say I love creatine. I use creatine for myself. I use creatine also on my grandfather, which is 91 years old. So I think that creatine could be beneficial among all the lifespan. I read an article, a scientific article recently, who talks about the creatine benefits among all the lifespan. So from the newborns, obviously not as a supplement for the newborns, but probably for the, how to say, for the mother milk. Then for the teen, for the young adult, so for the adult and for the last stages of the life. So creatine, I think that it would be probably the best compound in the present, but also in the future. And I think that it could help not to avoid, but to reduce some illness condition like in the older adult. Creatine could help to reduce the loss of muscle mass, the loss of muscle strength, but probably on the youth athlete, we need to keep a little bit more. We have to go slow. Food first, and then in the future, we will see if the scientific literature support the creatine use also on young athletes or not.
Yeah, definitely stand by on that one. Like, if any parents listen to this, it's not approved yet for us to allow youth players to have it. But yeah, like Giorgio was saying there's definitely a lot of data coming out proving the benefits, and it's just ticking so many boxes. It's getting quite interesting. Okay, so if a youth player is under eating or overeating, is there any signs you guys can look for, or any things that you notice, or
I think so. Probably yes. If a young player is under eating, probably he shows flatness in late sessions, frequent colds, because we know that if you are under eating, your immune system probably is not at the highest level it could be. So frequent colds, maybe poor sleep, or also poor mood, because we know that the nutritional status affects also the sleep quality, the sleep quantity, and our mood. So that could be another sign. Slow recovery, higher RPE in the training session. If I recover better, probably the perceived exertion of the training session, it would be lower. So that could be another sign. And also maybe a weight loss. If a young athlete would overeating, I think that he can show gut discomfort, maybe due to the high volume of food that he has in the gut, probably, and also unnecessary weight gain. Because if I eat a lot, I eat a lot of calories, and probably I would gain weight. It could be a good thing, but it could be a bad thing. If we have maybe a youth athlete who have a high level of body fat or not a low level of body fat and he eat a lot, maybe he gain unnecessary weight. So that could be the situation, I think.
do you guys monitor the youth player body fat percentage and try and keep it in a range?
Yeah, we know that the body fat percentage is something old, and probably we are trying as a scientific community through the world to have different data analysis, different index that can help us. But at the moment, we have to match the time that we have at the training center with the youth athlete, because maybe they go to school in the morning, they have the training session at 3 p.m. and they arrive at the pitch at 2 p.m. So we have just 1 hour to assess body composition for 25 athletes. and we have to find the best way, so the best quality way to assess body composition, but also the shorter way, I mean, for each player. So we use body composition with assessment for the body fat with just 4 skin folds. We know that this measurement could have a lot of limits, but if we use the same measurement through the season, for sure we can see if the body fat is going up or going down. If the 4 skin fold sum would be 45 millimeters in July, and then in September the sum of the 4 skin fold is 39 millimeters. Okay, we know that during the preseason, the player has lost body fat. Then we assess the same anthropometric analysis also with the analysis of the bioimpedance analysis. We can have double tests to assess body composition and hydration status. So how much water the player has inside the cells or in the extracellular spaces.
So you guys are doing that every training session? You're taking
No.
those measurements
No, for sure. We try to do it every month.
every month?
So
Yeah.
every 4 weeks we can check and analyze the data.
I think that's really good input, actually. It's like for parents or players to understand what's to be expected if they were to make a move or to join an academy like Gomo's. So how do you balance like the need for performance fueling without the fact that the athletes are growing as well? And I guess because some athletes grow differently, don't they? So we have like late bloomers.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. With the youngest players, there are some Isaac-based measurement that can help us to know and to analyze if the youth player has reached the PHV. We know that the peak high velocity, and so, or if the youth players hasn't already reached that PHV level, in how many months we expect the highest development velocity. Based on this, we can also monitor if the energy requirements and the energy intake, the macronutrients requirements, the same intake, and the micronutrients, so the mineral and the vitamin requirements and intake is good to support the growth needs. Especially, I think that for sure is very important, like calcium, iron, zinc, to support some anatomical needs. For example, the calcium and the vitamin D to support the skeletal mass and the skeletal growth. So
Yeah,
we try to
definitely.
assess these kind of things.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So do you look after the female players as well? Did you say that?
Just last year, okay, this year just for male academy players. Last year it was good because we could work with different situations. We know that for female players has different needs. They have different needs based on the menstrual cycle. Okay, so through the months we have different phases and different way to manage micronutrients. So probably there are some weeks in which the female players has an higher insulin sensitivity, other phases in which the female player has lower insulin sensitivity. So maybe a little bit higher or lower carbs are required in that phases. Then we know that tracking the cycles, we can watch for low energy availability in the female players, which is very important to monitor. And then also is ensure good iron intake. Female loss iron with the menstrual cycle, so we have to replace that losses. In my opinion, the most important thing to assess. So monitor the cycles, monitor to avoid low energy availability, monitor calories and macronutrients, iron, and then maybe some players benefit from slightly higher carbs in the late luteal phase or slight lower carb in other phase.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like, I find a lot as well, like, there's certain but slight nuances with each female player as well. So, like, their needs that they need. And sometimes it definitely differs between girl to girl as well. So, yeah, it's quite interesting working with females and going through the cycle. So, is there any sort of like tips you can give or advice you can give your players that don't have access to like a club chef or like specialized meals or anything like that?
Yes, in my opinion, the first advice in this situation is to batch cook basics: rice, pasta, chicken, fish, eggs, pulses, roasted veg, to stock fruit, yogurt, nuts. So at the supermarket, you can have clear ideas to what to buy, okay, and what to take home. Then maybe pack the training bag with sandwiches if you go to school and you can't have lunch at home. So You can also create a good sandwich, in my opinion, a balanced sandwich to meet your fuel for the work required. With the sandwich, for sure, water. The first recommendation is to go with the water bottle every day, the small water bottle every day, and to provide a little water content every 20, 30 minutes. Not big, not 500 ml once, but 100 ml, 200 ml every 30 minutes, more or less. It depends, but this is the idea. And to provide also with sandwich and with water a fruit. Maybe another advice, if a youth player has the bad habits to drink not so much water, when it's hot, to use carbohydrates and electrolyte sport drink, because maybe it has a better flavor and it can help the youth athlete to drink more.
Yeah, sometimes I recommend, like with my youth players, to use like fruit in their water. So I'll have them put
Yeah,
like cut up cucumber or oranges or a bit of lemon and stuff like that in them.
that's a good idea. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Me too.
Yeah, I like it. I've
Yeah,
always got water
me
in the
too.
fridge with lemon in there and stuff like that. So it's much
Yeah,
better.
I agree with you.
All right, so looking ahead, how do you see youth football, like nutrition, evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I would say smarter load to fuel matching, maybe better female athlete support, and we can also use in 5, 10 years, I don't know, I hope, simple tech that reinforces habits. So the winning edge, in my opinion, it is now will be food force, consistency, and education. Because if the youth player is correctly educated, he can achieve consistency in the
Yeah.
present and in the future.
Do you think there'll be, I guess, more individualized meal planning for each individual player?
It could be for sure. It's not easy because how can I do 25 different? But maybe we can use in 5, 10 years in the right way the AI. Maybe it could help us. I don't know. But I would say, even if we don't have 25 different plans for the team, in my opinion, it's okay to have one plan for the whole team. And then if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players that needs different things, we can follow them individually. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is to have fuel for the whole team, education workshop for the whole team and for the parents, so they can try to reach the consistency we were speaking before. And then if someone needs something different, we can work with these people, but few people, I hope, not 25 people each teams, because otherwise I think it's quite impossible.
Yeah. And I guess from your academy point of view, it's almost somewhat a controlled environment because you guys already know what energy output they potentially should be having that day. And it'll be quite similar because they're all doing the same amount of hours at school and then the same training sessions. So you guess fueling for that is, yeah, a bit easier to set up. And with the workshops and education you guys do, would have them sort of dialed in anyway.
More or
So
less, yes.
yeah, so that it's quite easier for you to set up their meals because it's similar outputs.
I agree with you because the situation is quite similar among the 25 players. If we have 25, 16 years old youth players, all the 25 players in the morning has school. But the difference is that maybe 15 after school can go home and have the meal seated with their parents, okay? And that's quite easy. But 10 of these 25 youth athletes maybe don't have the possibility to go home and they have to have lunch on the bus. So we have to create something similar for the macronutrients requirement, but different for the food. But we can do it. It's okay. It's not a problem. It would be much difficult to create 25 different plans or 30 different plans.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed since working with online clients as well, so I get a lot of players come to me and a youth player might have 14 sessions in a week, 14 different training sessions, and then another might have 6 training sessions, and they might vary in hours that they train or like the types of training they do. For me, designing those has been quite challenging because there's multiple different outputs there, training types as well. Yeah, so it's definitely something that I find challenging, but something to think about for parents and players that are doing that. All right, so I've got some quick fire questions for you to finish off.
I'm ready. I hope.
You got this. You got this. Okay, carbs or protein? What do youth players usually undereat?
Carbs, for sure. Carbs, and I would enrich the answer with carbs around training. That's for sure what youth players miss.
So you're saying they're not eating enough right before the training session?
Yeah, through the day, but specifically before the training session or during the training session if it's a very high intensity training session. I think that if the training session lasts 2 hours and if the intensity is very high, it would be beneficial for them to use a carbohydrates rich solution during the training session. I would say to you that they miss carbs before the training session, but probably they don't understand the importance to support the high intensity training session with carbs during the session. Take this into an example. You can finish a marathon with no carbs, in my opinion. You can run 42 kilometers with no carbs, but there are two ways to run a marathon. The best way, and the best way requires you to use 30, 60, 90 grams of carbs per hour of activity, or the second way is just to finish the marathon, not in the best way, in another way. You can do it, but you have to know that you miss something, and also your recovery starts later. Because I think that carbohydrates during session provides you extra energy to fuel the same session, but also boost your recovery. It's part of the recovery, in my opinion.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, about the marathon, definitely can do one without carbs. But the difference in timing, like when they're properly fueled and the way they feel, the way they complete that marathon is chalk and cheese. It's a big
Yeah,
difference. What if a player, say, doesn't like eating breakfast? Do you guys have a suggestion for that, or is there anything that you guys would do?
I tried to find something that can help him to eat breakfast. That's the first approach we have because I think it's important. It's another window to get more carbs and more calories in the training day or in the match day. So I like breakfast. I like my athletes having breakfast. Okay. If it's not possible, no problem. Probably we maybe reach the lunch with extra calories, maybe liquid calories if the volume is too much.
Yeah, I try and
Our
get,
way.
so when I come across some players that are like that, I try and get them to have a smoothie, like a
Yeah,
really light breakfast smoothie in the morning, so I can get those liquid calories in,
liquid
especially
calories.
a
Yeah.
high carb one. Sneak some oats in there and get them blended up. But yeah, if I can get them having that, then trying to start getting them to have a bit more solid food. So maybe egg, yeah, or omelets as well. So like building up from the smoothie, then we'll go to an omelet and yeah. Okay, so what is the favorite pre-game meal for players?
Tomato sauce pasta. In Italy, tomato sauce pasta with chicken. We have the habit to have two different meals. So the first meal is a plain pasta or tomato sauce pasta. Second dish is chicken with low vegetable size or no vegetable size if we are pre-match meal. Low fiber, low fat, a little extra virgin olive oil. That's our favorite pre-game meal.
I think we've talked about this one, but we'll go again. Best recovery food or drink after training?
Low fat chocolate milk. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Low fat chocolate milk, in my opinion, is the best. Or yogurt, fruit, and cereal bar. That's also a good idea. Or a smoothie. I think that's also a very good idea. Another food I like is, sorry, not food, but drink. If the player don't like low fat chocolate milk, if the player can't have yogurt, fruit, and cereal, or if the player can't have the smoothie, maybe an orange juice, carbs, a little bit of electrolytes, vitamins, and water.
So things with like protein shakes or protein bars and things like that, would you recommend them to youth players or are they useless?
Not in the youth players, because if we have 50 kilos youth players, it's very easy to meet his protein requirements. Also, if the player is 60, 70 kilos, it's very easy. I think it's different among the different sports. When you have 100 kilos, so 225 pounds, I think, is it their conversion, powerlifting athlete, that's not easy to reach the protein requirements. Protein shakes, rich protein food, maybe they could be beneficial. But for a youth player, I would use a food first approach, but real food, not protein enhanced food. So eating chicken, eating fish, eating pulses, eating eggs, eating dairy, low fat dairy, we can meet the protein requirements, but we have to consider that also other foods contains protein, like cereals contains protein. Not high quality protein, but mixed with pulses, we know that they could become higher quality protein. So we have to consider the whole nutrition and the whole food.
Yeah, spot on. I love that answer because I've had parents, there was a couple of questions that came in as some of their players were having like protein bars before training and they asked about protein shakes before training. And then another one was, we have these smoothies here, these up and go drinks, breakfast drinks basically, but people drink them throughout the day. And we have high protein ones. And sometimes they give like their youth player them. But yeah, I also agree with you. It's completely unnecessary. And if they're doing food first and eating enough, they're easily going to meet their protein needs. Okay, so what's your go-to healthy snack for players between school and training?
So before the training session, it depends on the timing. If we have 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, or 2 hour, bread, honey, or jam, fruit jam. If we have 1 hour, I think that this could be enough, or a cereal bar, but low fiber, high carbohydrates, low fiber. Then I like also dates. I think it's the English translation, dates, the dried fruit. Yeah.
Yep.
If we have maybe more time, like 2 hours, we can add to the jam sandwich also a little bit of peanut butter or almond cream or nuts cream. So a little bit of fats, not a lot. A little bit of protein, not a lot. If we have 3 hours, 2 hours and a half, 3 hours, maybe we can do yogurt, banana, and granola. I like that pre-training snack, or a small sandwich with ham and maybe low-fat ham. And if the player wants low-fat cheese, just a little bit, that could be an idea. Or also the smoothie, because the smoothie, if we have just 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, I think that the smoothies are very useful.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so if players have an early training session or an early match, should they be having breakfast before that?
You mean early training match, like in the middle of the morning,
Yeah,
like
so
11
like
o'clock in the 11 a.m.?
yeah, no, even earlier. So 9 a.m., 10 a.m.
Okay, we work with teams that play minimum at 11 o'clock. So in this case, it's very easy because we have breakfast at 7 or 8 o'clock a.m. and it's okay. But if the player has the match at 9 o'clock a.m., the first rule, in my opinion, is to consider a good sleep duration and good sleep quality. That's the first thing usually I consider. If we meet the sleep requirements, we can also add some food before the match, maybe at 7 o'clock. It's not so early, so we can have a little breakfast, maybe considering the snack ideas we were speaking about a few minutes ago. I think it's important not for the muscle glycogen, because we know that if the day before the match day is okay, muscle glycogen is okay, but the liver glycogen during the night get at minimum content, and we have to fill it up with some breakfast, some snack, some fast snack ideas. They could help the athlete.
Yeah, the important point that you made there as well is I think it goes back to planning again. So if the parent is planning, they make sure the day before the player is loading up on the carbohydrates or I guess forward thinking about it. So higher carbohydrate meals, you've got that early morning game, then topping up your liver glycogen first thing in the morning, the player should
Yeah,
be fueled.
I completely agree. The day before is very important. Every day is important for sure, but the day before the match is as important as the match day, in my opinion, because the muscle glycogen could speed up not in 2 hours, but in 24, 48 hours. The liver glycogen is a little bit, how to say, faster. So the breakfast in the match day can help us and the athlete to provide good energy of glycogen also in the liver that can speed the performance, full the performance.
Yeah, excellent. A couple of questions left. What's one food you would never want to see in a player's lunchbox, like a school lunchbox?
Yeah. energy drinks, as I told before, but also junk food. I don't like to say that food needs to be avoided. I like to educate people like you can eat everything, but in the right amount, with the right frequencies during the week, and with a good nutritional habits. But for sure, I don't want to see in a lunchbox energy drinks with caffeine if you have 15 years. I think it's not okay. And junk food, because if we eat junk food and then in 2 hours we have to perform in a good way at the training center, it's not okay. I want to see fruit, vegetable, maybe vegetable not before the training session, but through the day. I want to see cereals, so rice, oat. Then I want to see low fat protein foods. I would like to see more pulses because I think that we eat a lot of meat, a lot of poultry, but not the right amount of pulses, which provide us good amount of fiber during the day, and water.
Yep. All right, to finish up, if you weren't a nutritionist, what job would you be doing?
Good question. I think still in the healthcare because my pharmacy roots tell me that the healthcare is my world. I like my job. I like my academic studies. I like also the strength and conditioning coach. If I weren't a nutritionist, maybe I like sports. So in the healthcare, in the sports world, maybe the strength and conditioning coach.
Yep. Beautiful.
And you, if you weren't a nutritionist, yeah,
I wish I could be a player. Yeah, that'd be a dream. But yeah, that's us for the questions. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, Giorgio. If any followers or anyone listening to this wanted to see what you're up to, or if they wanted to find you, where could they find you?
they can find me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and if they are in Italy, they can find me in Como. We have a beautiful lake, beautiful city, so beautiful football team, wonderful football team, a beautiful stadium. We would be happy to see you in our city. I'm very happy when people from other country visit our city or our country, the whole Italy, and they say, I like your country, I like your habits, I like the people. So if you want to meet us, we are here. We wait for you.
Oh, that's very welcoming. I love that. And just Como in general, it's such an exciting team at the moment. Yeah. Is it Nico Paz?
Nico Paz is our best player.
Oh, what a guy. What a player. He's amazing. Yeah, you guys are doing
But
some really exciting things.
I like Nico Paz. I like the whole first team. But I always say that, in my opinion, in Como, the most important, how to say, we changed the way of thinking when years ago Cesc Fabregas came here. So we changed completely our ideas, our way of thinking, our way of plays. So the youth academy are not in the first team, so I don't know players in the first team. I don't know Cesc Fabregas, but now I'm speaking as a Como fan because I go to the stadium every weekend to follow my team. And I completely think that we change ideas, change way of thinking when Cesc Fabregas decided to came on the Lake Como.
Yeah, wow. No doubt he brought some good ideas. He's played some pretty good places. Yeah, brilliant. All right, mate. It was nice chatting to you.
Thank you, Craig. I was very excited to meet you in your podcast because I follow you on social network. We text about last week, and I like your way of working to let the people know what is the scientific sports nutrition requirements. I like your passion, so thank you for inviting me here. Thank you very much.
That's all for today, guys. You can follow the Football Nutritionist at Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and jump over to our website at www.thefootballnutritionist.com. Keep fueling for success and kicking those goals.